Whoa.
I know. There's a lot of BS out there
Dang.
with it, but
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Gym Talk. My name is Cameron. I have here
my name is Daniel Lou, baby.
Danny Lou. We're going to dive into our legit or shit series today. We're going to take a look at a topic. We're going to discuss the nuance of it. And we're going to come to a binary conclusion on whether the topic is legit or shit. Today, we're going to go into unilateral training. I feel like a lot of people dive into unilateral training because they think it improves muscle imbalances. It helps strengthen you for a certain exercise or whatever. Let's take a single leg deadlift or something like that. And people will say that, oh, I do single leg deadlifts, therefore I make my deadlift better. I do single arm overhead presses, therefore I make my barbell overhead press better, stronger. And what do you think, Daniel? Do we think that it's something that needs to be done? Is it something that is just, you can only do this thing and then it's going to make everything better, or what?
It's such a deep box to dive into. I genuinely feel like unilateral training is just a tool in the toolbox that you can use. I know you mentioned some ways that people use it. The only way I typically use it, I'm not big into strength training myself, is for muscle imbalances. I find it nice if I want to be able to, for example, we all have our dominant side. I'm right-handed. I think you're right-handed. I push things better with my right hand. Sometimes it's nice to separate the training into unilateral training just so you can try to catch up your weak spots. Out of that context, I personally don't find it useful in any other sense. I don't think it's particularly good for strength training. I don't think it's particularly good for like stability that people like to call it, or like to think that it does add stability or whatever. I don't think that's really helpful either in that sense. I really, really only use it for muscle imbalances, and I can't think of another context in which I would use it.
So when you say muscle imbalances, do you mean like one side developing more than the other, or are you talking about maybe there's a pain on one side compared to another side? What do you mean specifically when you're talking about imbalances?
Yes.
So
okay. for both. So like
yeah.
if you noticed you have a certain side lacking size compared to the other side, you can literally adjust your training module so that you're training your left side more than your right to try to catch up. You can put it's the same way we do with different muscle groups. You can put a muscle at maintenance and train the other one. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that same process.
My take on this is just that, and I've looked at this. I've looked at the research. There was a meta-analysis that looked at all these different studies that were done on unilateral training and whether or not it boasts as big of a claim as it makes, right? And the conclusion was it's only good for improving unilateral things, right? And so the principle of specificity comes in here, where if you train something specifically, you're going to get better at that thing, right? Exactly. I can't get better at deadlifting if I don't deadlift. I can't get better at squatting if I don't squat. And if you are going to do unilateral training and make that a key component of your exercise program, you're going to get better at unilateral training. Does it have some transfer over to bilateral movements? Not really. And if it is, it's pretty insignificant. But to say that, oh, I'm doing this unilateral exercise and it's going to improve, everything across the board, or it's like the end all. And that's the thing that I'm saying, is that some people make a binary saying that I do this and it makes everything better. And I just think that's, again, we've said this before, certain things are pretty disingenuous. I just don't think that's leading people to believe that this is the only thing that you need to do. You should still squat, you should still bench, deadlift, or whatever. And I think what you were saying is adding those things in to improve, maybe there's an imbalance in the size of my right pec versus my left pec, which for me there is. Believe it or not, I'm right-handed, but my right pec is smaller than my left pec. Super weird. I could see where that would be beneficial in doing maybe a one-arm dumbbell press to get my right side to catch up to my left side. Maybe do a little less volume with my left. But that's one of the only ways that I can see that being a benefit. If we're looking at something like imbalances where maybe there's a stability imbalance or something like that, maybe I need to do some sort of, like, let's say I'm going to take this. have a harder time making my right glute fire than my left glute. And I know in working with a physical therapist, if I do more core bracing and try to get my left glute to fire, it does fire a little bit better. So there's a component there where the core stability needs to be engaged in order for my left glute to fire more. My right one can just turn on, no problem. But my left one is having a bit more difficulty. Create more stability in that area doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, but just keep hammering, clams or whatever unilateral exercise to get that one to fire. There's another issue at hand that is causing me to not get that thing to fire. And again, it could be a mobility issue. We've talked about the FAST principle, flexibility, activation, strength, and timing. One of those things could contribute to why something isn't as active as another one. But just hammering out a unilateral exercise doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to improve that imbalance.
Yeah, so I see where you're coming from there. A lot to unpack. You actually did touch on the point I had forgot to talk about was rehab and strength, stuff like that when you have injuries or whatever else is happening. Like you said, your right pec is smaller than your left. That is an instance in which unilateral training would be beneficial. Although, to your point, I actually hate the unilateral dumbbell because if the goal is to correct imbalance, that has like muscle imbalance size, that's too unstable to promote muscle growth. I would throw you on a machine. This is the most stable thing you possibly can do. Where your left side could still brace and your right side can get the full range of motion in.
Like a pec fly or
a pec fly, or even just a chest press machine, and just use your right side.
Okay.
So your left side can still break. The ones that alternate independently, not like the ones that do both. Because obviously you can't do that.
Okay.
Anyway, I totally got off topic. So back to your point, the studies you're referencing where they say that you're mentioning the SET principle, where the principle of specificity, you get better at what you do, totally makes sense when you're measuring. Your unit of measure is how good you are at a certain movement or how strong you are at the deadlift. There's nothing to say that a unilateral deadlift will get you better at a regular deadlift.
Yeah.
Obviously, I feel like that should make sense. I don't know why it's so complicated in this day and age.
Plus, it takes more time, too.
Exactly, yeah.
You're going to end up spending,
both sides.
you're going to do both sides. You're going to end up spending more time in the gym, and I feel like a lot of people don't have all the time in the world to train. Not everybody has 2 hours.
That is another reason why unilateral training is typically not in my common rotation for me and my clients. I don't do that for most people. It has to be a very specific instance in which to use it, because like you're saying, who has time to be in the gym 2 hours? I barely have time to be there 5 times a week.
Yeah.
But regardless, if your goal is to get stronger and get better at a movement, do the movement. You don't need to add all this fancy shit in. I don't know where this comes from.
Yeah. All right. So to conclude and answer the binary, is unilateral training legit or shit?
With context, we talked about the nuance, when to use it, when not to use it. For me personally, I still have to say legit. I know.
Whoa.
I know there's a lot of BS out there with it, but it still is a useful tool in the toolbox to have. Can people misuse it? Absolutely, but I still call it legit. I just explained to you the instance in which you could use it, which is very, very, very beneficial for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of dumb stuff you could do with it too. The same way certain other modalities could be legit or shit.
Yeah. All right. Well, you just blew my mind. I was taking a firm stance on shit in the idea that if this is you saying that this is the reason why everything is better, you're stronger, whatever, it's shit. In the context of what we discussed, it's legit.
You can call it shit, to be honest. I wouldn't mind that because you're a lot on the strength side and I'm a lot on the hypertrophy side. In terms of strength, I would call it shit. In terms of hypertrophy and muscle imbalance, I'd call it pretty legit. But for what you do and what you preach, I wouldn't mind if you said it was shit. I really wouldn't.
I'm going to go with legit.
Okay.
My wife will be happy if I say legit.
Okay. Fair enough. We're also allowed to disagree, which is not an issue at all.
Yeah. I'm not putting an asterisk. I will say I like having these discussions because I like being open-minded to things, and quite frankly, I did not expect you to say it's legit. And so in the totality of the conversation, looking at it this way, I just feel like, okay.
Whatever. No, but I see where you're coming from and where the passion started from. I wholeheartedly agree with the roots of your discussion. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. I'm an open-minded person.
You really are.
I'm an
I think this is
open-minded
like the
person.
second or third time I've changed your mind.
Oh my God. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to know, what do you think about unilateral training? Is it legit or shit? Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Stay tuned for more videos, more content. We got plenty more coming your way. We'll catch you in the next one.